The donkey in the lion's skin. Once a donkey was wandering in the forest. He found a lion's skin left by a hunter. He dressed himself in it and pretended to be the lion. All the animals mistook him for the lion. They started running away in terror. The donkey was so pleased that he uttered a loud, harsh bray in excitement. A fox, who ran with the rest, stopped after hearing the voice. He approached the donkey and said, "If only you didn't bray, you would have frightened me too." The donkey dropped the lion's skin on the ground. He walked away with his head hanging in shame. Moral: clothes may disguise a fool, but his words will give him away.
The Ant and the Dove. Once upon a time, a very thirsty ant was drinking water from the river. Suddenly, the ant lost his balance and fell into the river water. "Help! Help! Help!" cried the ant, but no one could hear his cries. A dove, sitting on a tree nearby, saw that the ant was in trouble. She quickly plucked off a leaf from the tree and dropped it into the water. The ant climbed on the leaf. He thanked the dove for saving his life. After a few days, the dove was sitting on a tree. The ant saw a hunter aiming his arrow at the dove. The ant knew that his friend, the dove, was in danger. He quickly bit the hunter's leg. The hunter cried in pain. The hunter's arrow missed the dove. This time, the ant saved the dove. The dove thanked the ant for saving her life. And they became friends forever. Moral of the story: one good deed deserves another.
The Fox and the Grapes. A very thirsty fox was wandering in the jungle, looking for water. He spotted a bunch of grapes hanging from a vine curled up on a tree. The fox got really happy. He thought, "This is just the thing I need to quench my thirst." He jumped, but he couldn't reach the grapes. The grapes were too high up for him. He tried with all his strength to jump higher and higher. But he couldn't reach them. The fox finally gave up and said, "The grapes are probably sour anyway." And he walked away. Moral of the story: it's easy to despise what you cannot get. The Fox and the Stork. One day, a fox invited the stork for lunch. The fox made some soup and served it in 2 shallow bowls. The stork had a long beak and wondered how to drink soup from the bowl. The fox quickly finished his soup. The stork couldn't drink his, so the stork said to himself, "I must teach this fox a lesson." Quote, after the meal, the stork told the fox, "Thank you for inviting me. Why don't place for lunch tomorrow? I will make delicious soup for you." The next day, the fox happily went to the stork's house. The stork prepared some delicious soup and served in 2 long-necked jars. Now, the fox wondered how to drink the soup from such a tall jar. The stork quickly finished his soup. But the fox's mouth could not reach the soup. The fox learned his lesson. Moral of the story: tit for tat. Do to others what one would wish for oneself.
The goose that laid the golden eggs. Once upon a time, there lived a farmer with his wife. They owned a special goose. One day, the goose laid a golden egg. The farmer became very happy and sold the egg. A golden egg. The farmer and his wife would then sell the egg. They soon became rich. The couple became greedy. They thought that a big piece of gold must be inside the goose. If they could have all the gold together, they would become richer much faster. They killed the goose and found that she was like every other goose from inside. There was no gold inside. They started crying, all due to the greed. Moral of the story: too much greed gains nothing.
The Ugly Duckling. One day, Mother Duck was sitting in her nest with her little ducklings. They were waiting for one big egg to hatch. Soon the big egg hatched. The duckling was different. It was bigger and ugly. Mother Duck hoped that the duckling would change. Mother Duck and the ducklings went swimming in the pond. The Ugly Duckling could swim much better than the other ducklings. Mother Duck to the ducklings to the farm. The farm animals saw the Ugly Duckling. They were mean to him. He became very sad. This continued for many days. One night, the Ugly Duckling went far, far away and fell asleep in a muddy marsh. The next morning, the Ugly Duckling met some wild ducks. They told him that he was ugly and asked him to leave. The Ugly Duckling was very sad. Months passed by but nobody was ready to be his friend. One day, the Ugly Duckling saw 3 beautiful white swans swimming in a pond. The 3 swans said, "Hello, new swan." The Ugly Duckling told them that he was a duck. The swans told him to look at his reflection in the water. The Ugly Duckling was amazed. He had grown into a handsome white swan. He was no longer ugly. The 4 swans flew up in the sky. The children on the ground clapped as the swans flew above them.
The Thirsty Crow. One hot day, a very thirsty crow was flying around, looking for water. After flying for a long time, he spotted a pot of water. There was very little water in the pot. He tried to put his beak inside but couldn't reach the water. He had an idea. He saw many pebbles on the ground. He picked up pebbles one by one and started dropping them in the pot. As more pebbles were dropped in, the water slowly rose towards the mouth of the pot. The crow drank the water and quenched his thirst. After drinking the water, he flew away happily to his home. Moral of the story: where there is a will, there is a way.
Dog and the Bone. Once upon a time a dog was walking with a nice, juicy bone in his mouth. He came across a river. To get to the other side, he had to walk on the bridge with the bone held firmly in his mouth. While crossing, he saw his reflection in the clear river water. He thought it was another dog with a bigger and juicier bone in his mouth. He became very angry and thought, "Why does he have a bigger bone than me?" He wanted the other dog's bone as well. So he barked at his reflection and the bone fell from his mouth into the river. He got upset and realized his mistake. He lost what he had due to his greediness. Moral of the story: it is very foolish to be greedy.
Hare and the Tortoise. Once upon a time, a tortoise was walking on the road. A hare saw him and started laughing loudly. "Ha ha ha, look at you, you are so slow." The tortoise got angry and challenged the hare to a race. The hare immediately agreed, saying, "Why not? I am faster than you. I can beat you any time." On the day of the race, the hare and the tortoise arrived at the starting line. The tiger waved the flag to signal the beginning of the race. The hare ran very fast, while the tortoise slowly followed behind. The hare was quite ahead of the tortoise in no time at all. He saw that the tortoise was walking slowly far behind him. The hare was so sure about winning the race, that he decided to take a little nap under the tree. While the hare was dreaming, the tortoise continued walking slowly and went ahead of the hare. The hare woke up from his nap and saw the tortoise reaching the finish line. He started running, but it was too late. He couldn't reach there before the tortoise. The tortoise won the race. The hare started crying because he had lost the race to the slow tortoise. Moral of the story: slow steady wins the race.
Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, next to a big forest, lived a little girl with her mom and dad. Each time the little girl went into the forest, she wore a red hood. Everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mom had baked a cake. The cake was a present for Red Riding Hood's grandmother. Grandmother lived on the other side of the forest. Red Riding Hood's mom asked her to take the cake to Grandma. Mom told Red Riding Hood to keep on the pathway and not stop anywhere. She told her not to talk to strangers. Mom and Red Riding Hood waved goodbye to each other. Little Red Riding Hood went into the forest. She had a basket on her arm with the cake inside. A big, bad wolf was watching her. He was very hungry. Little Red Riding Hood did not see him. The big bad wolf told Red Riding Hood that she should pick some flowers for Grandma. As Red Riding Hood was picking the flowers, the wolf ran off. He wanted to get to Grandmother's house before Red Riding Hood. The big bad wolf arrived at Grandmother's house. He knocked on the door. Grandmother asked who it was. The wolf changed his voice and said it was Red Riding Hood. Grandmother said the door was open. The big bad wolf let himself in. Grandmother saw him and began to scream. Before she could do anything, the big bad wolf swallowed Grandmother up. The big bad wolf was not satisfied. He wanted to eat Red Riding Hood as well. The big bad wolf dressed himself in Grandmother's clothes. He climbed into her bed. He waited for Red Riding Hood to arrive. Red Riding Hood came to Grandmother's house. She knocked on the door and asked if she could come in. The big bad wolf changed his voice. He sounded like her grandmother. He told her to come in. Red Riding Hood said what a deep voice her grandmother had. The wolf said it was better to greet her with. Red Riding Hood moved closer to her grandmother. She said what big eyes she had. The wolf said they were better to see her with. Red Riding Hood said what big ears grandmother had. The wolf said they were better to hear her with. The wolf told her to move closer. Red Riding Hood said what big teeth she had. The wolf told her they were better to eat her with. The wolf jumped out of the bed. Red Riding Hood screamed. Red Riding Hood ran from the house. The big bad wolf chased her. She saw a woodcutter. Red Riding Hood told him that the wolf had eaten her grandmother. The brave woodcutter picked the big bad wolf up. He shook him and the grandmother came out. She was shaken, but safe and okay. The woodcutter, grandmother and Red Riding Hood all watched the wolf run away. They were happy now. The big bad wolf had gone. Red Riding Hood and her grandmother thanked the woodcutter. Little Red Riding Hood told her grandmother and the woodcutter that she had learnt a lesson. She would always follow her mother's instructions and never talk to Little Red Riding Hood. Moral lesson: always obey your parents. Never talk to strangers. Even a friendly stranger can have bad intentions. 2 stubborn goats. There was a swiftly flowing river, and a narrow log was the only way to cross it. 2 goats came at the same time on either side of the log, but their pride wouldn't allow the other goat to cross first. One set foot on the bridge and so did the other, until they met horn to horn in the middle. "Let me pass first," said one of the goats. "Never. You get out of my way," said the other. While pushing each other, both lost their balance and fell into the river. Moral of the story: it is better to yield than to come to misfortune through stubbornness. The Wolf and the House Dog. Once there was a wolf who was starving. He saw a healthy house dog passing by and greeted him humbly. The house dog saw the wolf's sad condition. He asked the wolf to accompany him to his master so that he can get some food. The wolf felt very lucky and immediately agreed. Suddenly, the wolf noticed that the hair on the dog's neck was worn and the skin was chafed. "What is this?" asked the wolf, pointing at the dog's neck. "Oh, it is nothing," said the dog. "This is where the collar is put on to keep me chained up." Moral of the story: there is nothing worth so much as liberty and freedom. Beauty and the Beast. Once there lived a merchant with 3 daughters. The 2 elder daughters were selfish and wicked. The youngest one was so sweet that he named her Beauty. Once, the merchant had to go away for work. "What gifts do you want?" he asked. The eldest demanded a pearl necklace. The second wanted diamonds. Beauty asked for a red rosé. While returning, the merchant had gifts for his 2 elder daughters. But he couldn't find the perfect rose for Beauty. Suddenly, he stumbled upon an enchanting castle and went inside. There was no one in the castle. Strangely, a royal feast was laid out at the dining table. He was very hungry, so he ate the food. He went upstairs and went to bed. Next morning, the merchant saw some beautiful red roses in the garden of the castle. "Wow! I must take one of these roses for Beauty," he said. A scary beast appeared and demanded to know why he was stealing his rosé. The merchant replied that it was for his daughter, Beauty. "Then you must send Beauty to live with me," the beast replied. On reaching home, the merchant's voice trembled as he told Beauty everything. "I must go, father," Beauty said. Bravely, Beauty went to the castle. The beast always treated her with kindness and respect. Soon, she became fond of him. After some days, Beauty started missing her father badly. Beast let her go home. Beauty promised to return soon. Her father was delighted to see her. Her sisters claimed to be happy, but they were furious to see her return. Beauty loved her family's company. One night she dreamed of the beast lying on the floor, in poor health. She went to the castle immediately. She found the beast in the exact same condition. "Why didn't you come back?" gasped the beast. She sobbed. He asked her to marry him. Shush! Immediately. Instantly, the beast turned into a handsome prince. "Oh Beauty, Thank you. A wicked magician turned me into a beast. The spell would only end if a beautiful girl were to promise to marry me, he said. Soon, they were married. The merchant was very happy with the marriage. They lived happily ever.
Cinderella. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful girl named Cinderella. She lived with her mean stepmother and her two cruel stepsisters. The day the stepsisters received an invitation for a ball at the royal palace. "What a shame, maid's aren't invited too," jeered the stepsisters. As soon as her stepsisters left, Cinderella cried her heart out. She wanted to go to the ball. Suddenly she heard a voice from the back. "I'm your fairy godmother. I will fulfill your wish." The fairy godmother magically transformed and her friends. She told Cinderella to midnight. As soon as the handsome prince saw Cinderella, he was instantly enchanted. They both danced together. The clock struck 12 and Cinderella immediately ran out of the palace. She panicked and lost a glass slipper in the palace. The puzzled prince chased after her but only found the slipper. The love-struck prince went from house to house, making every girl try on the slipper. Then, the prince asked Cinderella to try on the slipper. Her dainty foot was a perfect fit. The prince gasped in delight. The prince took Cinderella back to his palace. They got married and lived happily ever after.
Three Little Pigs. Once upon a time, Mommy Pig and her three little pigs lived in a house in the woods. Mommy Pig did not have enough money to look after the three little pigs. Mommy Pig told the three little pigs that they would have to leave her and make their own fortune. The next day the three little pigs left and went into the woods. They did not see a big bad wolf watching them from behind a tree. The wolf was hungry and wanted to eat the three little pigs. The three little pigs met a man with some straw. The first little pig asked the man if he could have some straw to build his house with. The man said he could and gave him some straw. The first little pig made a house from the straw. He was very happy with his straw house. The other two little pigs waved goodbye and carried on through the woods. The first little pig went into his straw house. A little ahead, the two little pigs met a man carrying sticks. The second little pig asked the man if he could have some sticks to build his house with. The man said he could and gave him some sticks. The second little pig made a house from the sticks. He was very happy with his house made from sticks. The third little pig waved goodbye and carried on through the woods. The second little pig went into his house made from sticks. The third little pig met a man pushing a wheelbarrow filled with bricks. He asked the man if he could have some bricks to build his house with. The man said he could and gave him some bricks. The third little pig worked very hard and made his house from bricks. He was very happy with his house made from bricks. He wanted his house to be stronger than the other two. The big bad wolf went to the first little pig's house. He looked in the window and saw the first little pig. The wolf knocked on the door. The wolf asked if he could come in. But the first little pig would not let the wolf come inside. The big bad wolf huffed and puffed. He blew the house made from straw away. The first little pig ran to the second little pig's house. The big bad wolf went to the second little pig's stick house. He looked inside and saw the two little pigs. He knocked on the door and asked if he could come in. But the two little pigs would not let him come inside. The big bad wolf huffed and puffed. He blew the house made from sticks away. The two little pigs ran to the third little pig's house. The big bad wolf went to the third little pig's house.
He looked in the window and knocked on the door. The 3 little pigs were all in the house together. The big bad wolf asked if he could come in. But the 3 little pigs would not let him come inside. The big bad wolf huffed and puffed. But he could not blow the house made from bricks away. The brick house was too strong for the wolf. The big bad wolf carried a ladder to the house. He was going to climb down the chimney, and into the house that way. The big bad wolf climbed up the ladder and onto the roof. He was very happy that he would eat the 3 pigs today. The big bad wolf jumped down the chimney. He landed in a pot of boiling water. The 3 little pigs had put the pot on the fire underneath the chimney. The big bad wolf was burnt badly. He jumped out of the pot and ran out of the house. The 3 little pigs were very happy. They did not have to fear the wolf anymore. They lived happily ever after. 3 little pigs. Moral lesson: do not take shortcuts in life. Hard work always pays off in the end.